The Dwarven city of Khazad-dûm, also known as Moria, was established sometime between the years of the trees 1050 and 1250 by Durin the First, the progenitor of the dwarves known as the Longbeards. Durin first awoke at Mount Gundabad, but eventually journeyed south along the eastern side of the Misty Mountains. His travels led him to the valley of Azanulbazar, where he discovered a lake. Gazing into its waters, he saw a reflection of a crown of 7 stars above his head, which he took as an auspicious sign. Inspired, Durin entered the nearby mountain and founded Khazad-dûm. The lake, later named Kheled Zaram, or the Mirror Mere, became a sacred site for the dwarves, who erected Durin's stone beside it in honor of their founder's vision and the establishment of their great city. The name Khazad-dûm, meaning Dwarves' Mansion in Khazad-dûm, was indeed fitting for the grand city that Durin and his people began to carve out of the mountain. They constructed the East Gate, a massive entrance to the kingdom leading directly into the first hall. From there, a broad passage and stairs led to the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, a narrow walkway designed with defense in mind. Any invading force that managed to breach the outer defenses would be forced to cross this 50-foot-long bridge in single file, making them vulnerable to attack. Beyond the bridge lay the second hall, and from there, the rest of the city unfolded. Over time, Durin's folk expanded Khazad-dûm into a vast network of chambers, passages, halls, and mines. The city encompassed 7 levels ascending upward and 7 deeps descending below the base level of the East Gate. The eastern part of Khazad-dûm was the city proper, while the western expansions were dedicated to mining. Durin's realm became so renowned that even the elves of Beleriand in the First Age had heard of it through the dwarves of the Blue Mountains. In addition to their subterranean marvels, the dwarves built a tower at the peak of Zirak-Zigil, also known as the Silvertine, a peak of the Misty Mountains. This tower, known as Durin's Tower, could only be reached by the endless stair, which wound up from the very foundations of the mountain. Durin the First witnessed the rise of the greatest dwarf kingdom in Middle-earth before his death sometime before the end of the First Age. After the destruction of Beleriand in the year 40 of the Second Age, many dwarves from Nogrod and Belagost, whose homes had been destroyed, joined Durin's folk in Khazad-dûm. Their arrival brought unforeseen benefits, as these Western dwarves were highly skilled blacksmiths and masons, elevating the already great kingdom to new heights. By this time, Khazad-dûm's mines had extended to the westernmost edge of the Misty Mountains, allowing travelers to cross the entire width of the range underground. The famed doors of Durin, also known as the West Gate, were constructed by the dwarf Narvi and his friend Celebrimbor of Eregion between the years 750 and 1500 of the Second Age. These doors, made with such skill that they became invisible when closed, were adorned with designs and inscriptions inlaid with ithildin, a substance visible only by starlight and moonlight. The doors bore the symbols of Durin, a hammer and anvil, a crown with 7 stars, 2 trees representing the tree of the High Elves, and a single star for the House of Feanor, to which Celebrimbor belonged. The inscription, written in Feanor's Tengwar script, included the letters C for Celebrimbor, N for Narvi, and D for Durin. The inscription read, Enin Durin Aran Moria, Pedomelon Amino, Im Narvihan Echant, Celebrimbor o Eregion Tethant e Thiuhin, which Gandalf later translated as, The Doors of Durin, Lord of Moria. Speak, friend, and enter. I, Narvi, made them. Celebrimbor of Holland drew these signs. In the simpler, friendlier times when the doors were made, this phrase simply meant to say, friend, and enter, as the doors typically stood open for free travel and trade between Khazad-dûm and Eregion. However, this era of friendship ended when Sauron attacked Eregion in the year 1697 of the Second Age, destroying it and killing Celebrimbor in his quest to seize the Rings of Power. The Dwarves of Khazad-dûm, who had aided Elrond in resisting Sauron, retreated into their mountain fortress, closing the doors of Durin behind them. From that time on, the doors would not be opened from the outside until the Fellowship of the Ring did so in the year 3019 of the Third Age. This isolation contributed to the dwindling of relations between the dwarves and the elves of Eriador. It's notable that before the sack of Eregion, Galadriel and her daughter Celebrian had safely traveled through Khazad-dûm to reach the Elven realm in the east, thus escaping the war thanks in part to their Dwarven allies. Meanwhile, the orcs began to reoccupy the Misty Mountains, bringing war to the dwarves and seizing Mount Gundabad, a former meeting place of the dwarf clans, now turned into an orc stronghold. Little is known about the dwarves' activities during the latter part of the Second Age, except that they sent troops to aid in the last alliance. By the Third Age, the dwarves continued mining deeper into the mountain, seeking Mithril. In the year 1980 of the Third Age, their deep delving awakened a Balrog, a creature of Morgoth. This Balrog, known as Durin's Bane, wreaked havoc on Khazad-dûm, killing King Durin VI and earning its fearsome name. The following year, King Nine I was also slain, forcing the dwarves to abandon their great kingdom and flee northeast. Khazad-dûm, once the greatest of all dwarf realms, now stood empty and dark, haunted by the Balrog. The elves of Lothlorien began referring to it as Moria, meaning Black Pit. For nearly 500 years, the Balrog was the only known inhabitant of Moria, until the orcs began to plunder the dwarves' treasuries in the year 2480 of the Third Age, occupying the city's levels and deeps. In the year 2799 of the Third Age, after being driven from Erebor by the dragon Smaug, the dwarves waged war against the orcs in the Misty Mountains, culminating in the Battle of Azanul-Bazar. Reinforced by the dwarves of the Iron Hills, they achieved victory, but the battle was costly for both sides. Dine Ironfoot, who slew Azog the orc chieftain with his great red axe, discouraged any further attempts to reclaim Khazad-dûm after glimpsing the terror of Durin's Bane. Though the dwarves of Durin's folk settled elsewhere, Moria remained a place of darkness. Gandalf entered the city between the years 2845 and 2950 of the Third Age, searching for King Thrain II. After the Battle of Five Armies, Durin's folk not only reclaimed Erebor, but also decimated the orcs of the Misty Mountains. In 2989, Balin led an expedition from the Lonely Mountain to reclaim their greatest realm. Thanks largely to the aftermath of the Battle of Five Armies, Balin's quest initially succeeded. The dwarves killed many orcs and took control of the eastern halls of Khazad-dûm, recovering lost treasures, including Durin's axe, a cherished heirloom. For 5 years, Balin served as Lord of Moria. However, on November 10, 2994, Balin ventured alone to the Mirrormere, the lake where Durin himself once gazed. There he was fatally shot by an orc archer. Though the archer was slain, many more orcs followed. An army of orcs surged up the Silver Lode and attacked the Dwarven colony. The orcs forced their way into Khazad-dûm, and a fierce battle erupted in the second hall. Some dwarves were killed in the hall, while others retreated to the 7th level. Balin's body was laid to rest in a tomb within the chamber of Mazarbul, where he had once held his throne. With their lord dead and defeat imminent, a group of dwarves, including Oin, attempted to escape through the west gate. However, they found the water up to the walls, and the Watcher in the water killed Oin, making escape impossible. The remaining dwarves, including Ori, made a final stand in the chamber of Mazarbul, but they were overrun and none survived. Moria fell silent, and the fate of Balin's colony remained a mystery until the Fellowship of the Ring passed through Khazad-dûm in January 3019. Interestingly, at some point before the Fellowship's arrival, Aragorn had also entered Moria for unknown reasons. After escaping the Watcher, the Fellowship ventured through the western part of the realm. During their journey, Pippin accidentally dropped a stone into a well, which fell a great distance before a faint plink echoed back, hinting at the immense depth of Khazad-dûm. The sound was answered by distant hammering noises, possibly a warning, prompting Gandalf's famous rebuke, "Fool of a Took." The Fellowship eventually reached the 7th level of Moria and entered the chamber of Mazarbul, where they discovered a book detailing Balin's expedition. Soon after, the Fellowship was attacked by orcs and trolls, leading to the revelation of Durin's bane. Gandalf confronted the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, destroying part of the bridge to send the Balrog plunging into the depths below. Although Gandalf also fell, the rest of the Fellowship escaped through the East Gate to the Dimril Dale. Despite their grief and haste, Gimli took a moment to gaze upon Keled-Zaram, the Mirror Mere, with Frodo by his side. As the Fellowship journeyed to Lothlorien, Gandalf pursued the Balrog up the Endless Stair on January 23rd. After battling on the peak of Silvertine for 2 days, Gandalf finally defeated his foe. The tower was destroyed in the struggle, blocking the entrance to the stairway and leaving Gandalf stranded atop the mountain. During their journey through Moria, Gimli sang the Song of Durin, which recounts the history of Khazad-dûm. With Sauron's defeat at the end of the Third Age and the earlier death of the Balrog, much of the darkness in the world was vanquished. Eventually, the dwarves' time to reclaim Moria would come. Sometime after the year 171 of the Fourth Age, Durin the Seventh, a descendant of Dain Ironfoot and believed to be the 6th reincarnation of Durin, rose to the kingship of Durin's folk. Under his reign, the dwarves made a final and successful return to Khazad-dûm. It is said that the House of Durin reclaimed their inheritance, and until the end of their race, their hammers rang in the great halls beneath the Misty Mountains, in Moria, in Khazad-dûm.